Some roots run through surfaces, others vibrate in the deep. Where trees tower across millennia, that is where we meet. Days go quickly, years fly.
It's interesting because, again, timing is what it's supposed to be, but I think it's important to give yourself permission to have an intention and to speak it out loud. I think there's something about writing it down. There's something about speaking it out loud that activates things. And I would tell them to just trust in that inner voice. Reinvestigate what you loved to do when you were little just for the fun of it. And that could be the thing that really lights a fire in you now.
Sweet life.
I'm Karla Harris. I'm a jazz vocalist. I'm a singer. I also teach vocal jazz at Kennesaw State University here in the Atlanta area. And I'm a mother. I have 2 grown sons, and I'm a wife. I always loved music. I always loved singing. When I was a little girl, my parents had a very eclectic stack of albums in our living room, and there was a turntable there. And on Saturday afternoons, after I'd finished my chores in the morning, then a lot of times I would go into the living room and I would sit and I would look at the pictures on the albums and I'd put those records on. I would take my notebook paper and I would spend Saturday afternoons like lifting that needle on the turntable up and down, transcribing each line by line and then trying to get that needle right back in the groove of the record where I had left off. I would sing them in little make-believe shows that I put on.
Isn't there something about this day?
I was always attracted to words, always was attracted to language. Apparently it was something that I started to do naturally from a very young age. You know, the only times that I haven't sung is following the birth of both of my sons for, a few months. But every time that I stopped, I felt like I wasn't fully breathing. I just knew that something had been missing, and I didn't even really fully realize that that's what was missing.
But it's good to be in here. Like they asked me if I wanted to be in the apartment further down the street.
The other
to
one.
change
Oh, really?
and everything. And I said, well, you should just go behind the screen things. But it's good to be with the band beforehand and just sit and talk, and it keeps you from thinking too much.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's always something I was like, if we stay somewhere, we go play out of town or something, and everybody's just like in the hotel all day. And you show up at the venue like an hour before the gig. And it's like, I don't know, I always feel like you're just
Feels a little cold.
Yeah, it's like you're like just doing your own thing for too long. I mean, which I'd imagine some people really need that,
Right.
But us, extroverted people,
Yeah.
you gotta get out of the room.
Gotta get out of the room.
And I started feeling this energy being generated in me, almost like I was being hollered at. I began to think of that energy as a creative energy that was the feminine divine for me. I named her Sophia. She came to me in a dream, and she basically told me in a dream that I needed to dream bigger. So I took that as permission to do just that. And when I moved here, in that transition time, one of the things that I did was write a song called Set Sophia Free. And the first line of the song is, will somebody set Sophia free before she burns a hole right through me?
Somebody set Sophia free before she burns a hole right through me.
My grandmother was an elementary school teacher. Every year I would get one of those red grade books. She would bring me one from school. It was so real. And I would, write the students' names in there, and I would line up my dolls and stuff, and they would be my students in the playroom. And I pretended to be a school teacher.
What can help give us more sound? More air support, more breath support. So everybody put your hands right here, like right at the top of your ribs, where your ribs are. Yeah, that's right up here. Now, take a big breath in. What do you feel?
Feels like more skinny, kind of.
Down here it might, but what if you're up here, where I want you to be, right up here, high? Do you feel your ribs getting kind of bigger?
Yes.
Like they're pushing out? Okay, we've got a lot of air in there. Okay, so let's just make a sound and see if we can hold that big, nice rib cage. Ready? Take a breath in.
I got a call one day, and they said that they had a student who was part of the jazz performance program and wanted to focus on vocal jazz, and they did not have a vocal jazz component to the program. So I get a call, and they asked me, would you be interested? It was Sam Skelton, who was the director of jazz faculty at Kennesaw State, and Tyrone Jackson, who was the professor of jazz piano. And they both contacted me about it, and my first reaction was, oh gosh, again, going back to, I'm not qualified for that. I don't have a music degree. I'm not qualified for that. And Tyrone in particular said, we have people who can teach, voice. We need somebody who can teach how to feel this music. And when he said that, I thought, I think I could help with that.
For the most part, by and large, universities have been terrible with helping kids find their voice. You teach students to pick apart the music and see what each vocalist brings to the table and how you can assimilate that into your own voice. Classical music is not like that. You're usually, if you're going to do a Mozart piece, you're going to do it in the style of Mozart. Can't change with the notes, can't add a glissando that's not there.
Every single vocalist that enters her studio is a completely different entity, and that means each lesson you have with her is completely different. And the thing that I love about Karla is that she really knows how to help you find your artistry, figure out what makes you you.
My piano teacher at that time, Evelyn White, would ask her like, hey, could you introduce yourself and stuff like that, and the way that she introduced herself was by going like this. And she said, do you know, and she would say a jazz song.
Somebody let Sophia fly from the hidden place locked deep inside. She says, I am here. Are you listening?
And so she'll get in their face. I remember sitting in and looking at a lesson, I'm questioning myself. I was like, I think I'm a good teacher, but I'm not doing all of that.
It's so interesting the way things work. I mean, I never thought I'd be actually teaching. And here I am. And I love working with the students.
Karla is pretty serious about what she's doing. And it's the thing I like about her so much. She really cares.
Every year on the first day, she asks, why? Why are you here? Why did you choose a music degree, specifically in jazz studies?
Each vocalist in there had different reasons on why they pursue music, specifically jazz. And for me, it made me feel free.
Help me welcome Karla Harris and the Joe Alterman Trio.
You turn my timid nose to eager yeses. You sweep away my sorrows with your sighs. Estate. Oh, how the golden sunlight.
But Karla was wonderful when I met them the very first time. She was just very personable. That particular time, we only had probably maybe about 28, 30 people in and out for the whole concert. But she sang and her bandmates performed just like they were in Carnegie Hall.
Don't think New York City is the place to go.
She is just pure class. That's why I love working with her.
Worth singing about. If you get in, make sure you can get back out.
And so she gets them right, right here in the palm of her hands, and you can hear a pin drop.
I think it's so special to me, especially here, when you see so many young African-American kids learning about jazz, because to me, jazz is an African-American contribution to the world. And so many of these kids don't realize that. I mean, and it's so nice to show them like what their culture has put out. I mean, it changed the world.
People seem to come together over music. They come together over different types of music.
Jazz is a uniquely American art form. And people say, well, what do you mean that it's uniquely American? And I mean that it was created by influences from African music and from European music and from Caribbean music and Afro-Cuban music. And I mean, it's just this melting pot.
I think the detachment, though, is that jazz used to be popular music and used to be dance music. And when we started sitting down and listening to jazz, it became a monument rather than movement.
Collaboration, creativity, camaraderie, communication. When we are on the jazz bandstand, we are having a musical conversation. That's really what's happening. And that's the joy of watching live jazz, because probably what you're seeing there happening hasn't happened before and probably won't happen again exactly in that same way.
If we give them a great first exposure to the music, no telling what else they'll continue to explore. Karla and I, a lot of times, jazz is heading in two different directions now. I feel like it's either play for the people or play for the musicians. And me and Karla definitely play for the people. And I think she's a great person to, get someone into jazz and to see it done right. And who knows where it'll go from there.
Jazz fulfills all those different emotions, all those different things that we have. There's no doubt that sometimes jazz is a steak, right? And you can't eat steak every day.
People need to hear it. When they hear it, and it's really a spiritual thing. When they hear it, they go like, oh, they just have to have it. If you've got that music somewhere down in your soul, sometimes you'll go back to it and sometimes you won't. But it's so important that you hear it.
This music, you will grow into this music and keep growing into this music. And there's no end to the becoming. There's no end to the becoming in this music. The compositions of the jazz standards are so rich. I mean, they stand the test of time.
I was never just one thing, and in truth,
I started organizing all my old photos. This is a quote from Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella musical. When I was growing up, this was my favorite thing. And this was the song I would always sing when I was little. In my own little corner, in my own little chair, I can be whatever I want to be. And then down here I wrote, I am a singer. I think it's important to give yourself permission to have an intention and to speak it out loud. Trust in that inner voice that's telling you something about what your passion is. And if you had a passion when you were little, reinvestigate what you loved to do when you were little just for the fun of it. And that could be the thing that really lights a fire in you now in life. I remember once hearing Don Henley say that there were years between when he did albums because you shouldn't do an album unless you have something to say. And at this point in my life, I don't know how many more of them are in me, but I feel like I have something to say with this record. I woke up one morning right after the new year and just knew that I wanted to do this particular album. One of the themes of the title track is, I was never just one thing. I was never just one thing, and in truth, neither are you. To whisper in my little self's ear I would say it's okay to be a little scared, because that means that we're growing. And it's okay to dream bigger, because we're going to grow into this thing that we love. And you know what? We're always going to be doing it.